The morning started quiet, almost too quiet. The soft sound of birds, the smell of pine trees, and the cold air made the cabin feel peaceful, like every normal day. The storyteller, let's call him Ryan, stepped outside with a cup of coffee in his hand. He loved mornings like this. No noise, no problems, no people. Just nature. But today felt different. Very different. As Ryan looked around his yard, something strange caught his eye. A woman was standing near his fence. She wasn't walking by. She wasn't lost. She wasn't even trying to hide. She was just staring. She held a phone in her hand and clicked photos again and again. Ryan blinked, confused. Who is this woman? He thought. He lived far from the town. No neighbors nearby except 1 or 2 cabins down the road. People didn't just show up here, and they definitely didn't start taking pictures of his property at sunrise. The woman stepped closer to the fence. She zoomed her camera toward his cabin windows, then his truck, then the old shed behind the trees. Her movements were sharp and fast, almost like she was searching for something wrong. Ryan watched for a moment, trying to understand what was happening. Maybe she was lost. Maybe she needed help. But then she took a picture of his shoes lying near the door. That didn't make sense. He slowly walked toward her. "Good morning," he said calmly. "Can I help you?" The woman turned her head fast, like she wasn't expecting him to speak. She was around 50 years old, wearing a tight sweater, big sunglasses, and the most annoyed expression he had ever seen. The type of face that says, "I am always right." She didn't smile. She didn't act polite. She simply said, "You're in violation." Ryan frowned. Violation of what? She ignored the question and took another picture of his truck. Click, click, click. Ryan stepped closer. "Ma'am, who are you? Why are you in my yard?" Instead of answering, she pointed her phone at him and said loudly, "I will not be threatened. I am calling 911. Ryan was shocked. Threatened? "I just asked who you are." But she already had her phone to her ear. She began talking loudly to the 911 operator. "Yes, hello. I need officers right away. This man is breaking HOA rules, and he's becoming aggressive. Yes, it's serious." Ryan felt his chest tighten. HOA? This cabin wasn't even part of any HOA. It was private land, miles away from any neighborhood association. He moved his hands up slowly, trying not to look threatening. "Ma'am, this property is not in an HOA. You must be confused." The woman snapped her fingers at him like he was a child. "Don't lie. Every home in this area belongs to Oak Ridge HOA. I am the acting president, and you will follow the rules." Ryan couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had lived here for years. No HOA, no rules, no board, no nothing. Just simple forest land. He tried again. "You're mistaken. I own this land. There is no HOA. Stop lying," she shouted. Then she yelled into the phone again. "Send officers now. He is refusing orders." Ryan stepped back, stunned. This woman didn't seem confused. She seemed dangerous. A moment later, he heard something unexpected. Sirens, faint at first, then louder, much louder. His heart dropped. There's no way she called police, and they came this fast, he thought. The sirens grew closer, echoing between the trees. The woman Karen, clearly a textbook Karen, stood straighter, acting like the queen of the forest. She smirked. Ryan felt the morning peace disappear. Something bad was coming. Within minutes, a police car stopped at the edge of his driveway. 2 officers stepped out, looking around with confused expressions. They didn't see any danger. They didn't see any crime. They only saw a woman pointing at a man with a cup of coffee. Karen rushed toward them dramatically. "Thank God you're here. He refuses to follow HOA safety rules. His yard is a disaster. His tools are dangerous. His truck is not allowed. And he threatened me." The officers looked at Ryan. He calmly raised his hands. "Officers, I didn't threaten anyone. I don't even know who she is. This land has no HOA." Karen gasped loudly, as if he had said the most evil thing in the world. "He lies to your face. Check the pictures. Check them." She opened her phone gallery and showed them random photos. She took pictures of his truck, his shed, a few logs, and a broken chair leaning against the fence. The officers exchanged looks. None of these were crimes. None of these proved anything. One of the officers said, "Ma'am, this just looks like normal cabin stuff." Karen's face turned red. "No, these are violations. Rule 14 says no messy yard items. Rule 22 says no old vehicles. Rule 7 says no tools outside." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, this area is not listed under Oak Ridge HOA. Actually, Oak Ridge is several miles away." Karen froze. Then she forced a smile, a very fake smile. Well, the rules still apply." The officer shook his head. "That's not how HOA works." But Karen wasn't finished. She leaned close to the officers and whispered something. They both looked at Ryan again, now with concern. Ryan's stomach dropped. What did she tell them? He wondered. The officers walked toward him slowly. One asked, "Sir, do you own this cabin?" "We need to verify." Ryan nodded. "Yes, I have the papers inside. I can show you." Karen spoke loudly again. "He will hide the evidence. He is dangerous." But the officers ignored her this time. Still, Ryan could feel the situation getting heavier. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding. This woman had some goal, some plan, and she was willing to lie to get what she wanted. As Ryan walked to the cabin to get his documents, he looked over his shoulder. Karen was staring at him with cold eyes. Eyes that said she wasn't done. Eyes that said this was only the beginning. At that moment, Ryan realized something important. This wasn't a normal Karen moment. This was something darker, something organized, something he didn't yet understand. But he was about to, because Karen's simple 911 lie was about to explode into something much bigger, something that would take him all the way to the whole office. And change everything. The police officers followed Ryan inside the cabin while Karen stayed outside, pacing like a queen waiting for her servants to return with good news. Every few seconds she glanced toward the windows, trying to watch what was happening inside. Her face was tight, angry, and strangely confident, like she truly believed she controlled everything around her. Inside the cabin, the air felt heavy. The older officer, Officer Grant, stood by the wooden table while Ryan searched through a drawer for the land papers. The younger officer, Officer Miller, glanced around the small room, noticing hunting photos, tools, and a simple life. Nothing dangerous, nothing criminal. Ryan finally found the folder. "Here," he said calmly. "This shows I own the land. This area has no HOA." Officer Grant took the papers and studied them carefully. Everything checked out: the address, the land number, the owner name, the tax receipts. There was no mention of any homeowners association. But before he could say anything, Karen burst through the door. She didn't knock. She didn't ask. She just stormed inside like she lived there. "That's fake," she shouted, pointing at the papers in Grant's hands. Both officers turned sharply. "Ma'am, you cannot enter the house without permission." Karen ignored them again. She walked straight up to Ryan, poked a finger toward his chest, and said, "You think you can fool everyone with your little fake documents? I know the rules. I know this land is under HOA control." Officer Miller stepped between them. "Ma'am, please step back." Karen didn't move. Her eyes were wild, almost shining with anger. She lowered her voice and said coldly, "I am not letting you get away." Ryan stared at her. "Get away with what? I didn't do anything." Karen let out a dramatic laugh, loud, fake, and unsettling. "Oh, you did plenty," she said, "and I will prove it." Officer Grant tried again to calm her. "Ma'am, I reviewed the documents. This property is privately owned and not part of any association. Your complaint is not valid." Karen suddenly gasped as if she had been slapped. "So you're taking his side?" She screamed. "We're looking at the facts," Officer Grant replied. But Karen wasn't listening. She stormed back outside while shouting at the top of her lungs, "I will get the HOA records. I have them. I have everything." The officers sighed and followed her out. Ryan watched from the doorway, feeling more confused than before. Why would Karen lie so hard? Why was she trying so desperately to force HOA rules on his cabin when no HOA existed here? Something more was going on. Outside, Karen started digging through her car papers flying everywhere. She pulled out a thick folder with a golden HOA logo on the front. It looked professional from far away, but up close, it was clearly printed on cheap paper and poorly cut. The logo was crooked. The edges were rough. Karen held the folder high like it was the holy book. "See," she yelled. "Official HOA documents." Officer Miller opened the folder slowly. Inside were letters, warnings, and fine notices, all with Ryan's cabin address. But something was off. The grammar was weird. Rules were written like a teenager made them up, and the signature line said, "Acting President, Karen L. Summers." Officer Grant raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, did you create these documents yourself?" Karen gasped again, acting offended. "How dare you? These are official. This whole forest follows my rules." Officer Miller whispered to Grant, "This looks fake." Grant nodded. "Very." Karen, however, wasn't finished. She grabbed the papers back, hugged them like they were priceless treasures, and shouted toward Ryan, "You think this is over? I will show you the real files. At the HOA office. Everyone there knows you're a problem." Ryan felt a strange chill at those words. The HOA office? There actually is an office? But his land wasn't part of any HOA. Why would an office have files on him? Before he could ask questions, Karen jumped into her SUV, started the engine violently, and drove off, leaving dust swirling in the air. The officers turned back to Ryan. Officer Grant said gently, "Sir, we're going to write a report. She clearly lied about a threat, but until she breaks a more serious law, our hands are tied." Officer Miller added, "You might want to record everything. She seems persistent." "Persistent is an understatement," Ryan muttered. The officers left soon after, but their slow drive down the long dirt road made it clear they were worried about what might happen next. Ryan stood alone in the yard, staring at the dust cloud fading in the distance. He had never seen someone so confidently wrong, so aggressively lying, and so determined to control land that wasn't hers. He walked around his cabin, checking the windows and doors. Something inside him felt unsettled. He didn't trust this to be the end. Karen was too loud, too dramatic, and too organized to simply give up. A few hours passed. The sun moved higher, and the forest grew quieter. Then it happened. A soft sound. Tap-a-tap. Tap. Ryan stepped outside slowly. A letter was stuck to his cabin door. Not mailed. Not delivered by hand. Just taped there quietly when he wasn't watching. He pulled it down and opened it. Inside was a warning. A fine. A list of violations. Rules he had never seen before. At the bottom was a signature. The same name, Acting President, Karen L. Summers. Ryan stared at the signature for a long moment. This wasn't a random Karen being annoying. This wasn't a simple lie. This was a plan, and whoever helped her was watching him very closely. The rest of the day felt heavy, like the forest was holding its breath. After the police left, Ryan tried to stay calm. But that first HOA violation letter kept replaying in his mind. Every word, every rule, every fake signature, it all felt too personal, too targeted. It wasn't random harassment anymore. Someone wanted him gone. By evening, Ryan locked the cabin door even though he almost never did. Out here, people trusted each other, but now he wasn't sure who might show up next. He sat at his small wooden desk, reading the letter again. It said, "You have 24 hours to correct ALL violations. Failure to obey will result in removal." Removal. Not a fine. Not a fee. Removal. The word hit him harder each time he looked at it. Karen wasn't just playing HOA president. She was threatening him legally, socially, physically. But the strangest part was the rule list. It didn't read like a normal HOA rule book. Rule 1. No tools visible in yard. Rule 6. No loud work after 4 p.m. Rule 13. All cabins must match community style. Rule 21. All vehicles must be approved by HOA. Rule 34. Yard must be visibly pleasant at all times. Ryan read that last rule twice. Visibly pleasant. What kind of rule was that? It was like she invented an HOA system just to control him. He shook his head and tossed the letter on the desk. "This is crazy," he muttered. But then came the knock. Not loud. Not threatening. Just a soft tap-tap, like someone using just their fingertips. Ryan stood slowly. He moved to the door, peeking through the side window. Nobody. He opened the door carefully and looked down. Another letter. This one was in a clean white envelope with a typed label. Second warning, urgent. His heart beat faster. This wasn't just harassment, it was organized. Someone had time, supplies, a printer, envelopes. This was a system, not a random act. He opened it right away. Inside was a new violation list and a fine amount. Fine, $380, due immediately. And the bottom said, again, acting president, Karen L. Summers. Ryan looked around the forest. No sound, no movement, no sign of anyone. He walked down the porch steps and scanned the trees. The forest felt wrong. Usually alive with noise, now it watched him in silence. It felt like someone was hiding behind the darkness of the branches, that uneasy feeling. In his stomach grew stronger. He went back inside and closed the door again, hard as. The sun disappeared and the sky turned dark blue. He heard something else rustling. Not animals, not wind. Something heavier. He turned off the lights inside to see better outside. The yard looked still, but the fence line on the left side. Something was off, a small shape crouched behind it. Not an animal, a person. Ryan grabbed his flashlight. When he pointed it toward the fence, the figure shot up and ran, disappearing into the trees. He didn't see the face, but he saw enough to know. It wasn't Karen, it was someone else. Now he knew Karen wasn't doing this alone. The next morning, Ryan woke up earlier than usual. He made coffee and opened the door to get fresh air and stopped dead. There were 3 envelopes taped to the door this time, all different colors, all with different labels. Final warning, immediate notice, inspection required. Ryan tore them open. Each one had a different violation list. Each one had a fine. Each one had the same signature. But something new stood out. The bottom corner of every paper had a small printed stamp, filed at Oak Ridge HOA office. Case number 1170 to removal in process. Case number, removal in process. Ryan sat on the porch step and rubbed his forehead. How could there be a case file? How could something be filed when he didn't even belong to an HOA? Who was running this? He needed answers. Later that morning, he decided to visit the nearest neighbor, an old man named Henry who lived in a log cabin 2 miles down the trail. Henry knew everything about the area. If something strange was happening, he would know. When Ryan arrived, Henry was chopping wood. Morning, Ryan called out. Henry looked up, then frowned. You look troubled. Ryan didn't waste time. Henry, do you know anything about an HOA around here? Henry's axe stopped mid-swing. Slowly, he lowered it. There's no HOA here, he said carefully. Never was. Ryan showed him the letters. Henry's eyes widened, then narrowed. Karen, he whispered like the name was poison. You know her? Ryan asked. Henry nodded. Everyone around here knows her. She used to work with the town council. She tried to start her own HOA years ago, but no one wanted her in charge. People said she became obsessed with rules, land control, power. Ryan felt a chill. That explains a lot. Henry leaned closer. You're not the first person she's targeted. That hit Ryan hard. What do you mean? He asked. Henry looked around nervously before answering. She picks people she thinks are weak, or alone, or easy to pressure. Starts sending letters. Starts calling police. Starts acting like she runs everything. Most folks ignore her, but some get scared and leave. Ryan felt anger rising slowly. She wants me gone. Henry nodded. And she's not working alone. She has help from someone at the Real HOA office in town. Someone with access to printers, stamps, and fake case files. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment. Everything was starting to make sense now. The fake documents, the organized letters, the strange person at the fence, the confidence in Karen's voice. She wasn't acting alone. There was a system, a plan. Henry placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. If she's coming after you, you need proof. Real proof, cameras, recordings, something to show the sheriff. Ryan nodded slowly. For the first time in days, he felt a spark of control. Yes, he said. I'll record everything. As he walked back to his cabin, he didn't feel scared anymore. He felt prepared, but he didn't know something important yet. Karen wasn't waiting for him to react. While he was making his new plan, she was already making hers, and tonight, she would return to the cabin, not alone. That evening, Ryan sat quietly at his wooden table, sipping cold coffee and staring at the small box he bought from town. A set of 3 tiny outdoor cameras, battery-powered and motion-activated. They were simple, nothing fancy, but perfect for catching whoever had been sneaking onto his property. He felt a strange mix of calm and tension. Calm, because he finally had a plan. Tension, because deep down he knew tonight something was coming. The forest outside the cabin windows looked peaceful, but he didn't trust that peace anymore. Every shadow felt like it had eyes. Every rustle felt like someone watching. He took a slow breath, stood up, and began placing the cameras. Camera 1 on the front porch, hidden under a small wooden beam. It could catch anyone approaching the door or taping letters. Camera 2 facing the left fence, where he saw the crouched figure the night before. Camera 3 near the back shed, covering the entire rear yard just in case someone tried to sneak from the woods. After setting them up, Ryan tested each one on his phone. All green. All recording. Good. As the sun set, the familiar orange glow faded from the treetops. The forest grew darker and darker until it became a black wall around his cabin. Ryan locked the doors, closed the curtains, turned off every light. He wanted the cabin to look empty. He sat on his couch, silent, waiting. The glow of his phone screen the only light in the room. Each time a leaf blew by, he felt his heart jump a bit. But he stayed patient. He knew Karen. She was bold, dramatic, and angry. If she wanted something, she wouldn't hide for long. The first hour passed. Nothing. The second hour passed. Still nothing. Maybe it was a false alarm. Around 1:17 a.m., Ryan's phone vibrated. Camera 2 motion detected. Ryan sat up fast. He clicked the notification. The screen loaded. The video began. A shadow moved along the left side of the fence. It wasn't an animal. It was a person. Walking slowly, carefully, Ryan leaned closer to the screen. His heartbeat pounding. The figure stepped into the camera's clearer angle. It was Karen. But she wasn't alone. Behind her walked a man, thick jacket, gloves, hood covering most of his face. He carried a flashlight but kept it pointed at the ground to hide the beam. He moved confidently, like he had been here before. Ryan whispered to himself, so Henry was right. She has help. The camera showed Karen whispering something to the man. He nodded, then pointed toward the cabin with 2 fingers, signaling for her to stay back. Ryan felt anger rising in his chest. What are they doing? He switched to the live feed from camera 1. His breath caught. Karen was now in front of the cabin door. She reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of papers, at least 10 thick envelopes. She taped one to the door, then another, then another. She looked like she was enjoying it, smiling proudly after each letter. Meanwhile, the man moved toward the back of the cabin. Ryan quickly switched to camera 3. And when he saw the video, his stomach dropped. The man wasn't just walking around. He was checking his shed, touching the door handle, using a small tool to test the lock. He's trying to break in, Ryan whispered, fear and anger shaking his voice. The man stepped back, scanned the yard, then spoke softly to someone on a walkie-talkie. The audio was too faint to understand, but the tone sounded cold and professional. Ryan's eyes widened. This wasn't just some HOA volunteer. This was someone who knew what they were doing. He clicked back to camera 1. Karen was now holding a long envelope. She looked at the cabin windows, made sure no lights were on, then taped the envelope right in the center of the door. Ryan zoomed in through the camera. There were bold red letters printed on the front. Final eviction notice, immediate removal required. Ryan felt his hands shake with anger. Eviction? From private land? That she didn't own? That no HOA controlled? She was losing her mind. Or someone was encouraging her to go this far. Suddenly, something on the camera made his heart jump. The man from the shed reappeared behind Karen. He whispered something urgently into her ear. Karen's smile vanished. She turned and pointed at the cabin aggressively. Then she said something the camera barely picked up. Tonight. We finish it tonight. Ryan's blood froze. Finish what? Before he could think more, camera 1 flashed again. Karen's face moved closer to the lens accidentally. She was too busy looking around to notice the small camera hidden above her. Her expression wasn't angry anymore. It was excited. She whispered softly, almost like she was talking to herself. Tomorrow, this land will finally be ours. So this was the goal. His cabin. His land. They wanted it. Ryan swallowed hard. Now everything made sense. The letters, the fake rules, the sudden police calls, the fake case file stamps. Karen wasn't acting like an HOA president because she thought she was one. She was acting like she wanted to take over the land, and the man with her, whoever he was, seemed to be the real power behind her. A moment later, both figures hurried back into the woods. Camera feeds showed them disappear into the darkness. Ryan sat frozen for a long moment. Then, slowly, he whispered, "I have them on camera." But even with that proof, he knew the danger wasn't gone, because Karen said something he couldn't stop replaying. "Tomorrow, this land will finally be ours." Whatever was coming next was big dot, and he knew one thing for sure. He had to go straight to the whole office, because the real truth was waiting there. By sunrise, Ryan hadn't slept a single minute. The camera videos kept replaying in his mind, Karen with her stack of threats, the strange man trying his shed door, and the strange whisper, "Tomorrow, this land will finally be ours." Those words burned into him like a warning. He sat in his cabin with his laptop open, studying the footage again. Every angle, every shadow, every whisper. He saved the videos onto a USB drive, then backed them up on cloud storage, just in case something happened to him or the cameras. By 7 a.m., his decision was final. He wasn't waiting for Karen to finish anything tonight. He was going straight to the source, the whole office she kept talking about. Whether it was fake or real, he needed answers. The drive into town, Ryan packed the USB, the letters, and his property papers into his backpack. Then he got in his truck and started the engine. The dirt road leading out of the forest felt different today. Too quiet, too still. Even the birds sounded nervous. As he drove, he kept checking the rearview mirror, just in case someone was following him. When he reached town, he drove past the small diner, the hardware store, and the post office. Everything looked normal, but he didn't feel normal. He felt like something was glued to his back. Danger, or maybe just stress. Finally, at the edge of town, he saw it. A small gray building with a metal sign, Oak Ridge Homeowners Association. Administrative office. It looked harmless. Small parking lot, glass door, a faded welcome mat. But Ryan felt the same cold feeling he had last night when he saw the man testing his shed lock. He parked the truck and stepped out. "Let's end this," he whispered to himself. Inside, the HOAFsFarmer door chimed as he walked in. The lobby was small. 2 chairs, a fake plant, a dusty poster about community pride. A front desk sat in the middle, and behind it was a young woman in her 20s typing on a computer. She looked up and smiled politely. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Ryan took a deep breath. "I'm here about some violations sent to my cabin." The woman blinked. "Cabin? We don't handle forest properties." "I know," Ryan said, "but someone from the HOA is sending me threats. Fake fines, fake rules. They even broke into my yard last night." The woman's expression changed slowly, not shocked, but nervous. "Do you have the letters with you?" she asked carefully. Ryan handed her a few of the envelopes. She opened them. Her face went pale. "These aren't ours. We don't use this format, and we definitely don't have a president." Karen Summers. Ryan felt his chest tighten. "She claims she's acting president. Says she has files on me." The woman stood up suddenly. "One moment. I need to get my supervisor." Ryan watched her disappear into a hallway. His heart pounded harder. Something was wrong. He could feel it. After a minute, an older man walked out with her. Tall, gray hair, glasses. His face was serious and tired. "I'm Mr. Hollis," he said. "Can you show me all the documents you received?" Ryan handed him the entire stack. Hollis studied each paper slowly. Then he sighed, long and heavy. "These are copies of old forms we stopped using years ago," he said. "Modified, edited, printed on cheap paper. Someone is reusing our old designs and making up new rules." Ryan swallowed hard. "So someone in the HOA gave her old documents?" Hollis didn't answer right away. He opened a drawer behind the front desk and pulled out a binder labeled Employee List Access Levels. He flipped through it quickly, then stopped on a page. 3 years ago, he said softly. "An assistant here was fired for stealing files. Confidential files. Blank forms, even stamps. She tried to start her own HOA group. Ryan's stomach dropped. What was her name? Hollis looked him dead in the eye. Karen Summers. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. She used to work here, Hollis continued, but she became obsessed with land control. She believed every forest area near Oak Ridge should fall under HOA rules. Even private land. This is insane, Ryan whispered. Hollis nodded. She didn't act alone. She always had someone helping her. Someone with access to our storage room. Someone who went missing the same month Karen was fired. A man? Ryan asked quickly. Yes, Hollis said. His name is Dale Mercer. Big guy. Wore hoodies all the time. Always kept to himself. Ryan felt his breath stop. The man from his camera. The one trying to break into his shed. Hollis continued. They created their own HOA group pretending to be official. They targeted quiet properties, forest cabins, small homes, places where the owners lived alone. Why? Ryan asked. Hollis lowered his voice. To scare people away. To force them to sell land cheap. They planned to buy the land and resell it to a developer. Ryan stared at him. Everything clicked. The letters. The fake fines. The 911 lies. The nighttime break-ins. They weren't trying to annoy him. They were trying to steal his cabin land. Hollis leaned closer. If they came to your cabin last night, they won't stop. They're preparing something bigger. Ryan grabbed his backpack and stood up quickly. Thank you. I need to take this to the police. Hollis grabbed his arm gently. Be careful. If Karen finds out you came here, she might come after you harder. She's unstable. Ryan nodded. He turned to leave, but as he reached the door, the front desk woman ran up behind him. Wait. Ryan stopped. She lowered her voice and whispered. Someone from the HOA came in earlier this morning asking for your address. Ryan's eyes widened. Who? I didn't know who he was. Big guy, hoodie, didn't give a name. Ryan felt the blood drain from his face. Dale. He was already looking for him. Thank you, Ryan said and rushed out of the building. As he stepped outside, the wind shifted. The sky darkened. The air felt charged. And on the passenger side of his truck, stuck under the windshield wiper, was another envelope. Ryan pulled it out with shaking hands. One sentence was written on the front. You shouldn't have come here. His heart pounded like thunder. Karen knew. Dale knew. And whatever they were planning was already in motion. Ryan drove back toward the cabin with the new message burning in his hand. You shouldn't have come here. The words felt heavier than the wind pushing against his truck. Every mile deeper into the forest felt like walking into a trap. But he had no choice. His land, his home, his safety. Everything was on the line now. He reached the forest road, turned in, and followed the narrow path of dirt and scattered leaves. The sun was already sliding down behind the mountain. Soon the whole forest would be swallowed by darkness. Ryan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He could feel it. Karen and Dale were not waiting anymore. They were moving. A cabin that didn't feel like home. Ryan approached his cabin. His stomach dropped. The porch light was on. He never left it on. He stopped the truck a few meters away and killed the engine. The forest became silent, except for the slow creaking of branches. For a long moment he just sat there, listening, waiting, watching. No movement. No voices. But something was wrong. He could feel it crawling on the back of his neck. He got out slowly, staying low, staying quiet. Step by step he moved toward the porch, checking every shadow, every corner. Then he saw it. The front door wasn't fully closed, just slightly open, like someone entered in a hurry, or someone was still inside. Ryan's heart hammered. He reached for his phone. One bar of signal. Barely anything. He whispered, "Come on, not now." He tried dialing the sheriff anyway. The call didn't go through. He tried again. Still nothing. The forest swallowed the signal like it didn't want him to reach help. But he wasn't going to wait. Not tonight. He slipped inside the cabin. Evidence. Or a warning. The inside looked normal at first glance. Nothing broken, nothing stolen. But someone had been inside. He could smell a faint scent. Cheap cologne. The same one from the night before when Dale tried the shed door. Ryan checked the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom. Everything looked untouched, until he reached the table. There, neatly arranged like someone wanted him to see them, were 3 things: a map of his land, a USB drive, a note with only 2 words, "Tonight, 10 p.m." Ryan felt cold inside, like someone had thrown ice into his veins. He looked at the map. 3 red X's were marked around his cabin, 1 at the shed, 1 at the back fence, and 1 near the well. Positions for people to stand, positions for something planned. He grabbed the USB and plugged it into his laptop. A single video file appeared. He clicked it. Karen's face filled the screen, smiling widely, eyes shining with the kind of confidence that only crazy people had. "Hello, cabin boy," she said sweetly. "Just wanted to make sure you understand something. This land, it will be ours, no matter what we have to do." She leaned closer to the camera. "And tonight, we finally finish everything you ruined." The video ended. Ryan stared at the dark screen. Karen wasn't playing anymore. This wasn't about fake fines, made-up HOA rules, or intimidation. This was something bigger, something dangerous. And he only had a few hours before 10 p.m. Preparing for the unknown, Ryan started moving fast. He checked every window latch. He locked the doors. He made sure the cameras were recording with fresh batteries. He placed his flashlight, his hammer, and his pepper spray near the entryway. He wasn't a fighter. He wasn't a hero, but he wasn't going to be chased from his own land. He turned off the lights and stood near the window. The forest outside was growing darker by the minute. Shadows stretched like long black fingers between the trees. His mind kept replaying the plan he'd discovered at the HOA office. Karen and Dale didn't just want to scare him. They wanted him gone, sold, forced out, or worse. The clock on his wall ticked louder than normal. 9:12 p.m. He waited. They arrived 9:47 p.m. He heard the first sound, crunch, soft footsteps on dry leaves. Ryan froze and looked through the tiny gap in the curtain. A figure moved near the back fence. Dale, large shoulders, hoodie, slow steps, moving like he knew exactly where to go. Ryan's pulse raced. A second figure appeared on the left side of the cabin. A woman with tight blonde hair pulled back, clipboard in hand. Karen. Even in the dark, she walked with the same overconfident posture. Then Ryan saw something that made his heart drop even further. A third person was with them, a young man holding a backpack, checking his phone nervously. More people, more help. This wasn't a random night visit. This was an operation. The real plan begins. Karen whispered something to the young man and pointed toward the old well behind the cabin. Dale walked toward the shed like he did the night before. The young man moved to the back fence. They were spreading out. Like the positions on the map. Ryan felt sweat on his neck. He backed away from the window and grabbed his flashlight. As he stepped toward the back door, a sudden noise came from the porch. A knock, a slow, deliberate knock. Ryan's heart jumped into his throat. He turned. The front door shook again under someone's knuckles. Karen's voice floated through the wood. "Ryan, we know you're home. Let's talk like mature adults. You're making this harder than it needs to be." Ryan stayed silent. She laughed softly. "You went to the HOA office today. TSK. That was very rude." The porch creaked as she shifted her weight. "But don't worry. We've already cleaned up the problem." Ryan frowned. "Cleaned up? What did that mean?" Before he could think, more footsteps circled the cabin. Someone tried the back door handle. Someone else tested a window frame. They were surrounding him, closing in. The clock hit 10 p.m. And Ryan understood. This wasn't a scare tactic anymore. This was a takeover, a forced removal, maybe even a trap to make him disappear, a fight for his land, and maybe his life. He backed away slowly as the doorknob turned again. The night had only begun, and everything was about to explode. Ryan never slept that night. The sounds of the forest, the rustling leaves, the distant howl of a coyote kept him awake. Every shadow seemed alive. Every crack of a branch sounded like footsteps. Karen and her crew had circled his cabin the night before, but now he had a plan. He had proof, the videos from his cameras, the letters, the map, and the USB with Karen's confession. All of it was enough to stop her. And he wasn't waiting for another attack. Morning calm before Cowsby, 7 a.m. The forest seemed almost peaceful again. The sun rose over the mountains, golden light spilling into the cabin. Ryan felt a strange calm. Today was the day. He would take the evidence straight to the police. He loaded his truck, USB drives, letters, property papers, camera equipment. Every piece of evidence was packed carefully, ready to show the sheriff. As he drove down the winding forest road, he kept thinking of Karen's voice from the video. Tonight, this land will finally be ours. It was like a curse. But today, he would break it. At the police station, Ryan arrived at the sheriff's office and met Deputy Mills. He explained everything in detail. The letters, the fake fines, the 911 call, the nighttime trespass, the videos. He handed over the USB with Karen's confession. Deputy Mills watched the footage. His jaw tightened. "This is serious," he said. "We'll need a warrant to check the HOA office. But you're right, this isn't just harassment. This is organized." Ryan felt a surge of hope. "Can we move fast?" he asked. "We move now," Mills said. The raid within an hour. Police vehicles lined the street outside the Oak Ridge HOA office. Officers in plain clothes moved quietly toward the building. Ryan was asked to stay in his truck with the windows down just a bit so he could hear, but not be seen. Inside, Karen was already there, sorting through papers, humming like nothing was wrong. Dale was with her, holding a stack of folders and talking quietly to someone at the desk. A few other figures moved around, papers in hand, maps spread out, phone calls being made. The officers quietly took positions outside every entrance. Then, with a sudden crash, the front door burst open. "Police!" shouted Deputy Mills. Karen froze. Dale's face went pale. The other men scattered, trying to hide folders, phones, and envelopes. Caught in the act, Karen tried to run toward the back office, but officers blocked her exit. "Stop. Hands where we can see them," one shouted. She glared, furious. "This is illegal. I'm the president. You can't." Her words died in her throat as the officers lifted the stacks of fake documents, stamps, and letters on a table near the desk. They found maps of multiple forest properties, fake case files labeled, with cabin owners' names, photocopied HOA rules with her signature, envelopes ready for mailing, each with the words, "immediate removal." It was worse than Ryan imagined. The officers turned to her. "Karen Summers, you are under arrest for fraud, harassment, and conspiracy to force property sales," Deputy Mills announced. Karen gasped, clutching a folder to her chest like a shield. Her eyes darted to the ceiling, the walls, everyone, but there was no escape. Dale was next. The young man in the back office tried to hide a USB, but the officers found it. They discovered communications planning the fake fines, the 911 calls, and the nighttime intimidation. Karen's plan was fully exposed, the evidence that saved Ryan outside. Ryan watched as officers collected folders and cameras. He felt a mix of relief and disbelief. All the threats, the fake HOA rules, the broken nights, everything was documented. One officer handed him a folder. Inside were copies of Karen's emails to Dale and others, describing each step of the operation. He flipped through the papers slowly. Every target, every cabin, every fake case number. It was clear now. Karen had been trying this for months, maybe years, and Ryan's cabin was her latest target. Just when Ryan thought it was over, Deputy Mills handed him one last envelope. Inside was another letter, fresh, printed that morning. It read, "You won this time, but others will follow." KS Ryan felt a shiver. Karen wasn't just crazy, she was obsessed. But now, thanks to his evidence, cameras, and courage, she had been stopped. For now, his cabin was safe. Karen was taken to the station. Dale and the others were questioned. Authorities confirmed that multiple properties had been targeted. Fake fines, fake 911 reports, intimidation, all part of a scheme to buy land cheaply. Ryan's evidence became key in stopping the scam. He returned to his cabin that evening. The forest seemed lighter, almost welcoming again. He walked through his yard, looking at his shed, his truck, and the well, all untouched, all his, for the first time in days. He smiled. Karen's 911 lie had started a nightmare, but the truth ended it. And Ryan finally felt the peace of his cabin, his forest, his home restored. Yet, deep in his mind, he knew Some threats never truly disappear, but courage, proof, and vigilance could stop